By the end of this review, you'll know whether Alan Wake 2 still holds up a year after its release. The game continues the story of both Alan Wake and Saga Anderson, offering two protagonists with similar gameplay styles but distinct upgrades and features. Both characters share basic mechanics in combat and movement, but their individual experiences and environments make for very different sections of the game. Alan Wake's unique feature is his plot board, allowing him to manipulate his environment in creative ways to solve puzzles. This mechanic is crucial in Alan's sections and gives him a level of depth that feels original and fresh. On the other hand, Saga Anderson has her case board, which acts as an evidence map for piecing together clues. Unfortunately, the case board feels a bit underdeveloped. While it could have added an interesting detective element, it often comes across as tedious. By the latter half of the game, the case board becomes skippable, with the game solving the puzzles automatically in some instances, lessening the challenge and engagement. The distinct environments between Alan Wake's dark, twisted version of New York and Saga Anderson's more grounded Bright Falls provide excellent contrast. Wake's sections, set in a warped dark place, are filled with eerie atmospheres and surreal sequences, while Saga's journey feels more like a traditional thriller. These environmental differences offer a nice change of pace, with each protagonist's path standing out in its own right. Technically speaking, Alan Wake 2 is a visual masterpiece, especially on high-end PCs with advanced graphics cards. The game's lighting, atmosphere, and environmental details are stunning. Remedy Entertainment has made significant strides in creating a next-gen experience that truly showcases the power of modern hardware. If you're playing on a system with ray tracing and max settings enabled, you'll be treated to some of the best visuals in gaming. That said, there are minor technical issues. HDR can sometimes feel off, making certain areas appear washed out. However, the visuals are breathtaking overall, especially when daylight finally breaks through the otherwise dark and moody world. Combat in Alan Wake 2 has its ups and downs. If you've played the original Alan Wake or its remaster, the combat system will feel familiar. Using a flashlight to weaken enemies before shooting them adds tension but can sometimes feel repetitive. Worse, the combat's jankiness, carried over from the first game, remains. You still need to conserve flashlight battery, and it's frustrating when you waste a charge on a harmless figure. The combat mechanics, while atmospheric, don't always feel intuitive or polished, particularly when compared to Remedy's other titles like Control. Weapon management is another weak point. The quick select system feels cumbersome, especially when you need to heal or switch weapons during intense battles. The inability to cycle weapons with the mouse wheel on PC is also a noticeable design flaw that detracts from the fluidity of combat. Despite these issues, the game does succeed in creating an atmosphere of tension and unease, which aligns with its survival horror tone. However, much of the combat feels forgettable, with only one major battle leaving a lasting impression. Where Alan Wake 2 shines is in its narrative presentation, though it's not without its flaws. The game allows players to swap between Alan and Saga at key points, which sounds like an interesting feature, but can sometimes make the story feel disjointed. The meta-narrative can get convoluted, with certain sections feeling wordy without adding much depth. Still, the characters are generally well-written and likable, particularly the supporting cast. One of the game's standout moments involves a sequence so unique and memorable that it elevates Alan Wake 2 into a different tier of gaming experiences. Without spoiling too much, this sequence is a masterclass in creative game design. It's no wonder that Sam Lake, the creative director, had to fight to keep this part of the game, as it adds a distinctive flavor to the overall experience. The soundtrack deserves a special mention. Alan Wake 2 uses its music not just as background noise, but as an integral part of its storytelling. Each chapter ends with a carefully curated song, enhancing the emotional impact of the game. Tracks like Wide Awake and Herald of Darkness stand out, perfectly matching the game's eerie tone. The audio design in general is another strength, adding to the psychological horror atmosphere. Even simple moments like walking through Bright Falls or exploring dark, abandoned locations are elevated by the game's use of sound. Now, let's talk about the Lake House DLC, which expands on the Alan Wake 2 experience. In this DLC, you step into the shoes of FBC Agent Kiran Estevez, a new character investigating mysterious events near Cauldron Lake. This side story adds depth to the main narrative, especially for those familiar with Remedy's broader universe, linking the world of Alan Wake with Control. Unlike the more comedic expansions for Control, the Lake House focuses on horror. The new setting, a research facility run by the Federal Bureau of Control, brings back the unsettling, tense atmosphere that made the base game so gripping. You explore eerie environments, uncover FBC experiments, and dive deeper into the lore surrounding Cauldron Lake and its dark powers. While the Lake House may not reinvent the gameplay, it brings more of what fans loved about the core game: an unsettling atmosphere, challenging puzzles, and more psychological horror. It also provides additional clues that tie together the overarching storyline between Alan Wake and Control, making it a must-play for fans of both series. However, if you were hoping for significant changes to combat or gameplay mechanics, this DLC sticks closely to the formula of the main game. Now, after a year, is Alan Wake 2 still worth playing? Despite some of the weaker gameplay elements and narrative hiccups, the game delivers an experience that is memorable in its own right. The stunning visuals, atmospheric tension, and innovative storytelling sequences are what set it apart. Though the combat might feel clunky at times, Alan Wake 2 offers a unique blend of psychological horror that few games in the genre can replicate. If you're looking for a game that offers more than just simple mechanics and combat, Alan Wake 2 provides a truly immersive experience that will leave a lasting impression. Despite its flaws, it's a title that feels crafted with passion and creativity, and for that reason alone, it's worth your time. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Alan Wake 2, you're going to love our review of Until Dawn. It's another gripping horror game with its own twists and turns, and we'll dive deep into the choices, the story, and whether it's still worth playing today. Click on the video here to check it out, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another review.